You got your resume, you're ready to go on a job interview, but when you're on an interview, you want to make a great first impression. So as a result, what questions should you ask? Joining us with tips, we have business and career coach Angela Lucier from DoMakeBusiness.com. Thank you for joining me on this little mock interview we're going to do. First, there's different ways to get an interview, and the first one is submit a resume, obviously.
Yeah, the simple way. You know, you see a job posted, you submit your resume or an application, you wait for your phone to ring, and you go in for the interview.
Next one is to meet the person and say, hey, I have this for you. Give them your resume.
Or you build relationships with people who work in the company through networking, like we talked about. You could either pick up the phone and call them and say, hey, I'd like to get to know you, or go to a networking event, build relationships, and then maybe they'll contact you for an interview.
This is something I've never done before. There's also the informational interview. What's that all about?
Yeah, an informational interview is different from a regular job interview in that you're not asking for a job, you're not being offered a job. It's just a casual conversation between two business people to learn. So if I was looking for a job at a company you worked for, I might ask you, how did you get employed here? What kind of qualifications does your company look for? What advice do you have for me so that I could find a job like yours? So it's me asking you a lot of questions and trying to gain insight into your career.
It's a really great precursor to an actual job interview too, because you show a whole lot of desire and passion to get into this field, so that if you ever go back for a second interview, you've definitely left a memorable mark.
Exactly, and they get to know you, and it's like, oh, this person, we've already had this person in here, we should bring him back. And
exactly.
It's better than just having a piece of paper to go off.
And you know, water cooler talk, when that manager, whoever you talk with, gets back, they're going to say, oh, this person had a lot of chutzpah. This person came in, we really had a good conversation. Now, before we go to the interview, there's a bunch of things that we should research that'll maybe help inform us during that interview process. The first is awards. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, well, if a company won awards for community involvement, maybe they give a lot of money to nonprofits in the area, that's a good indicator of something that, they care about, helping people to be healthy, or helping people, with curing diseases. So that if that's something that's aligned with your values, that'll give you good insight into whether or not you would fit in there.
And it's a great jumping off point for small talk too, and it shows that you've done your homework.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big part of it, because so many people, they just throw out job applications left and right without giving it the proper amount of thought. The next thing you want to look for is news about the company.
Yeah, perhaps they've done a lot of new hires, and they've promoted people from within, so that gives you a good idea that if you got a job there, you may have an opportunity for upward mobility. Like on the other side, maybe you see an article about a scandal with the president of the company. Is that the kind of company you want to get involved in?
And you know what topics to avoid maybe in an interview. You don't want to talk about that president who might have had a kerfuffle. Next, new product announcements.
Yeah, you'll get an idea of where the company is headed. Are they going into new industries? How's the company changing? What are they focusing on? Is that aligned with where you want to go? So these are the kinds of things that will help you to make better decisions, because you can see where the company is going.
And lastly, and this is a great point too, so many people, they get pigeonholed. If you work at a tech company but you mop the floors, you don't think about the tech industry. But if you know a lot about an industry, that can really inform your conversation. It's not necessarily about the company, but it's about the greater issues.
Yeah, if you were going to get a job at a manufacturing company, and the thing that company manufactures isn't really, it's kind of becoming obsolete, and the way technology is going, you can kind of see, is this job going to be here in 2 years or 5 years? So it'll help you to see if those opportunities are going to lead to layoffs or promotions.
Well, a lot of people out there are looking for jobs, looking to branch out, so this is great information. Now, later in the show, we're going to tell you what questions you should ask during an interview. For example, what's this pig and why is it on your desk? But stay tuned for that. Also, coming up on the show today, we're back with business and career coach Angela Lucier. We're talking about important questions you should ask on an interview. The first one, and I think these are questions that are a little bit like, you're going to feel good asking them, a little bit nervous, but a little bit good, because they're impressive questions. So the first one's, what's the company culture like? What's the company value?
Yeah, well, if you're a person who values consistency and structure, and you want to know every day when you come into work exactly what you're going to be doing, you're not going to want to work in a place that's innovative and constantly throwing ideas around and like, let's do this next month and let's try that. It's going to be really uncomfortable for you. So you need to know what kind of company culture you're walking into to make sure it's a match with your own values.
Another question that I think is a great question to ask is, a lot of people they're nervous. They don't know how they're going to be scored or judged or reviewed on their performance. So you can ask, how's the company going to know if I'm successful 6 months in?
Yeah, this is a really, really important. I think out of all four, this is the most important question to ask for two reasons. One, it helps you to see what they're expecting from you. Because you may think reading a job description that they really want you to focus on communication skills and training people and being a good supervisor. But in the interview, when they answer this question, they may say, well, we really want to have you in front of your computer and we need your technical skills. So that's going to change everything for you, because if you don't want to spend 80% of your time behind the computer, do you really want that job? And the second reason why it's important is because it helps you to see how much they've thought through this position. And are they even aware of what they want you to do? Because
that's a great point.
Some people take a job and they don't even really know what's expected of them. They walk in on the first day and everyone's running around, oh, you're the new person, we're not really sure.
Yeah, maybe do this. Yeah.
Exactly, and there's no real plan for you.
I love this next question. It's, you ask the companies, where does this position intend to go in 5 years? Because they always ask you, where do you see yourself in 5 years? You throw the question back at them. In 5 years, what's this person in this position going to be doing?
Yeah, because when you go in for a job interview, you're not just thinking about that job you're applying for today. You're thinking about your next job, right? So if they tell you, well, this position is just what it is. If it's an entry level or mid-level management position, it's just we don't have any upward mobility for you. There aren't any higher level positions open. Okay, well then that helps you to strategize. Do I want to be in a job that won't give me leadership skills to build off of? Or do I just want a job where I'll come in every day, do the same thing, and be happy with that?
Lastly, you can actually ask the employer where the company expects and wants to be in 5 years.
Yeah, and this helps you to understand their vision and their mission and how clear they are on their plan and their goals. Because some companies are just sort of like status quo, rolling along every day. Okay, everything seems to be working well, but do they have a vision and do they have a plan, and how well do your values and your plan align with theirs?
And I think at first these questions might seem a little bit nerve-wracking, but I think they show you have gumption and a vision beyond just what you're doing or what you're applying for.
Yeah.
Now, we have a couple questions. We've been combing Facebook, asking people if they have questions for you as you're the business and career coach. Alan was wondering how many times are too many times to follow up on an application?
Well, that depends on what they tell you when you call. If they say, oh, well, we're not ready yet, call back in 2 months, we're not ready yet, call back in a month, then you can keep calling. But if they say, look, we have everything we need, we'll let you know, don't call us back, then...
We'll let you know is subtext for, don't call me. I'm so sick of your call. And lastly, the next question, and I think since the recession, a lot of people are in this situation. If they lost their jobs and they're going for a new job, maybe taking a step or two back, people tell them that they're overqualified. So how, do you dumb down your resume? Do you refuse to accept that you're overqualified? What do you do in that situation?
Well, it depends. Does this person want to have a job that they're overqualified for? Because they're like, I got up there. I don't want to work in that level anymore. I'd rather have a more relaxed job where I'm just responsible for myself. Then yeah, dumb down your resume. But if you want that extra responsibility and maybe a bigger paycheck, then you need to start applying for different jobs. I mean, that's really what it comes down to.
Angela, it's always a pleasure having you here. I hope we helped a lot of people out there, but we're not done, because our Dream Series continues next week. We're going to tell you how to dress for success, from job interviews to informational interviews. Find out what you should and shouldn't wear. Also ahead, if you're